Good morning. Thank you for being here. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 2025 State of the City. It's great to see so many familiar faces and a few new ones here this morning. On behalf of the Longmont Area Chamber of Commerce, thank you for being a part of this conversation about where we've been, where we're headed, and how we get there together. Longmont is growing, and with that growth comes opportunity and responsibility. The Chamber's role in that is simple but important. We bring people together. Business owners, educators, nonprofits, city leaders, all in the same room having real conversations about what's next for our community. And that's what today is all about. 3 years ago, the Chamber started State of the City as a way to bring everyone to the same table, to talk about the changes happening in Longmont, and to meet the people making those changes happen. Because those changes impact all of us, our businesses, our jobs, our families, and the future that we're all building right here together. This event would not be possible without the support of our sponsors, so please help me in thanking My Wealth Planners, Next Light Fiber Internet, Front Range State Bank, the St. Vrain Valley School District, and Front Range Community College. Next, I would like to take a moment to recognize someone who's been an important part of those conversations for many years, Mayor Joan Peck. As her term...
Look what I did.
As her term comes to an end soon, we want to thank her for her leadership and commitment to keeping Longmont's growth grounded in community values. Let's give another round of applause to Mayor Joan Peck.
Thank you, everyone. It's so great to be here and to see all your faces, all your lovely faces smiling. You're the ones that make this city happen. I want to thank Eric Mason for having the greatest venue in Longmont for all these events. And I want to thank the Chamber, Scott Cook and his incredible staff, because these State of the City events are incredibly important. And also I want to thank Harold Dominguez and his team for being both the engine and occasionally the brakes on City Hall. I also want to thank Council for always keeping things lively, and to the residents who showed up at meetings to critique us, to cheer us on, and occasionally to scold us. You remind me that democracy is alive and well in Longmont. It's this time of year when Harold and his incredible staff get to remind us how much we've accomplished as a city, and as usual, it's been quite a year. Plenty of challenges, of course, but I've long suspected that Harold secretly enjoys those challenges. The State of the City tradition began a few years ago when Scott floated the idea past me. At the time, it sounded like one more meeting, but it quickly became something bigger, a moment each year to pause, to reflect, and to recognize that Longmont is not great by accident. It's made great on purpose by the people sitting in this auditorium right now. It's a bittersweet feeling being here for my last one as mayor. I'll miss serving alongside Harold, his team, and this council. But I want to make something very clear. Even though I won't be on council anymore, I'm not going far. I'll still be working for Longmont and for our businesses as the board secretary for the Front Range Passenger Rail District. So if you think you're done from hearing from me, think again. When I became mayor, I quickly realized that policy wasn't our biggest challenge. It was division. Not disagreement, but division. Disagreement is healthy, division is corrosive. I could see the respect slipping away among council members, and I knew we couldn't serve Longmont effectively that way. So I established our city's first council code of ethics, not as a formality, but as a reset. A shared promise that even when we disagreed, we would do so with integrity, accountability, and civility. It made us better leaders, but most importantly, it made us better listeners. We faced another challenge right away. Coming out of the pandemic, people were raw. They were isolated. They came to council angry because they needed to be heard. I didn't blame them, but I also believed we could do more than just respond. We could heal. So I asked our team, our staff, to consider something new, adding a drone show to our July 4th celebration. Well, Sandy Cedar worked her magic, teamed up with St. Vrain Innovation Center, and those students created a light show that stopped this city in its tracks. It's now our biggest event of the year, and nearly every one of those students earned scholarships because of it. That's not just fireworks. That's Longmont's investing in its future. Now, let's talk about parking. Because no urban story is complete without it. When news broke that a new parking spaces might be lost to the new hotel on Kimbark and 3rd, I think a few people nearly fainted. But instead of digging trenches, we sat down through Advanced Longmont 2.0 with Kimberly at LDDA and Phil Greenwald with the city, and we built a solution. That solution became Ride Longmont. Not perfect, not final, but proof that innovation can grow out of frustration when people stay at the table. That's what I'm most proud of, not the projects, but the process. Longmont doesn't build, it collaborates, it experiments, it argues respectfully, and then it delivers. So as I step away from this role, but not from this work, I leave you with this. Longmont does best when we choose courage over comfort, kindness over conflict, and progress over egos. This city is very special, not because of one mayor or one plan, but because we've decided to keep choosing each other. Thank you for listening to me and trusting me. Thank you for challenging me, and thank you for making Longmont exactly what it is, not just a city, but a community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Peck, and it has been a privilege and a lot of fun to work with you on this event for the past 3 years, so a personal thank you to you as well. So thank you. So the state of our city. The state of our city is that we are under construction. And as you saw this morning, including the museum. Here to tell you more about that is Eric Mason, director of the Longmont Museum.
Well, welcome to the museum. I hope you might like our new look. We're going for kind of an earthy feel to our landscaping. But seriously, we are in the midst of an expansion that will add more than 70% to our gallery spaces. And in about a year, we will open new galleries, including a dedicated space for kids called the Dream Lab at Lila's Children's Gallery, and a new feature gallery with more room for changing exhibits, local art exhibits, and a whole variety of things to better serve our community. We're expanding in response to needs that we have seen in the community. The excitement of kids and families to have a safe, fun place to play and learn here at the museum, and the interest not just in Longmont, but up and down the Front Range at world-renowned exhibitions like the Picasso show that we brought to Longmont earlier this year. Now, the expansion that you see happening right now has been largely privately funded. More than 80% of the total raised to date comes from individuals, more than 475 individuals, and private foundations. And every one of those donors will be recognized on a permanent donor wall. And if you're interested in being on that wall, you have until October 31st to make a contribution to show your support to the Longmont Museum. We are delighted to be the venue for State of the City, and thanks so much, Mayor Peck, for your kind words about the museum. We are only as good as the community that we serve. I hope that you enjoy today's program, and now I'll turn it back over to Scott. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. All right, I'm pleased to introduce our presenting sponsor for today's event, someone who truly represents the kind of leadership and community investment that make Longmont thrive. Dr. Daniel Yerger is the president and founder of My Wealth Planners, and he also serves on the Chamber's board of directors. Daniel is a great example of what can happen when someone chooses to start and grow their business right here in Longmont. The Chamber has had the privilege of watching My Wealth Planners grow from a local startup into a thriving enterprise, one built on integrity, purpose, and a genuine commitment to this community. What stands out most about Daniel isn't just the success of his business, but the way he continues to invest back into the community that helped make his success possible, whether it's through his time, his mentorship, or his leadership within the Chamber or amongst his peers. Please join me in welcoming our presenting sponsor, Dr. Daniel Yerger with My Wealth Planners.
No further comments. Thank you, Mayor Peck, Eric, Scott, for the very kind words and introduction. It is my pleasure and, frankly, my privilege to be able to represent My Wealth Planners as the presenting sponsor for State of the City this year. As a financial planning practice that began on a coffee table in a one-bedroom apartment over in the Grandview Meadows Apartments, I never could have imagined standing on this stage, speaking to all of you, having the opportunity to share and engage in this community in this way. It's been a privilege to grow a business that became Longmont's first CFP professional-owned and locally founded practice, its first fee-only financial planning practice, not accepting commissions or selling products on behalf of Wall Street, and Longmont's first certified B Corp with a commitment to engage in growing the value for stakeholders in this community rather than shareholders. It has been the privilege of a lifetime to be a man who started with a dream and not a dollar to show for it, to grow to a firm of many, serving hundreds of small businesses, families within this community. And it is possible because in this community, the businesses, the nonprofits, the organizations, the associations, the school district, the community college, and most importantly, the people that make up this community make growing a business like My Wealth Planners a possibility. So thank you all for being a part of that journey, contributing to this wonderful place we call Longmont. With that, it is my pleasure to welcome our Longmont Economic Panel to the stage. Please welcome Sarah Leonard with Visit Longmont, Kimberly McKee with the LDDA, Kelly Sage with the LEDP, and of course, our CEO, Scott Cook.
All right, thank you, Daniel. And as Daniel said, this year we're bringing back to our program a panel that highlights several organizations at the core of Longmont's growth and development. If you've been in Longmont as long as I have, you've probably noticed how much our city has changed over the past few years. The transformation of our downtown, the many new businesses opening their doors, the arrival of the ice climbing World Cup, and coming to our neighboring community, Boulder, the Sundance Film Festival. All of this does not happen by accident. Behind the scenes, there's a network of organizations under the name Advance Longmont, working together to make sure Longmont continues to grow in a way that's intentional, inclusive, and aligned with our community values. So I'm going to pull back the curtain a little bit today to share some of the same conversations that we have regularly as a group with you today. Dan already introduced our panelists, and I'll mention one more person that isn't here today, and that is Carla Culin. She's with the Latino Chamber of Boulder County, and Carla is busy prepping for the Feria de Tamal, a great event from the Latino Chamber and one that's super fun and super yummy, so don't miss that 2 weekends from now. Okay, partners, I've got a few questions for you, and then after that, we will open it up to some audience Q&A. So audience, you will see a QR code on your program. If you scan that, you'll be able to enter a question through your phone, and then we'll get to those questions after I get to ask you guys a few questions. All righty. And I'm looking for my clicker. Oh, Haley's got it. Okay. All right, Kelly, we're going to start with you first. You're the newest in our group. I bet you if I went out and asked all the people here today, I think we have probably about 200, what the definition of economic development is, I'm pretty sure I could get 200 different answers. We're not going to do that. We're going to use your definition. So if you would, talk to us about economic development, what it is, and then also referring to the slide behind me, if you would talk a little bit about the flow of a dollar through a community.
Yes, thank you, Scott. And it's very nice to be here. And Longmont has done such a great job putting their arms around me and welcoming me. And many of you have been a part of that. So thank you. So I'm going to read this. I don't like reading my speeches, but this is such an important definition, and it's kind of an esoteric term, economic development. So economic development in Longmont is about creating more good jobs, high-paying jobs, keeping businesses here, and helping new ones start, improving infrastructure, and ensuring our neighborhoods thrive. It means making Longmont a place where people want to live, where families can raise children, where there are opportunities, good public services, affordable housing, attainable housing, and a vibrant downtown. And I think Longmont has done a really good job. I've inherited a lot of good bones here, so this is great to be here. Do you want me to go right into this slideshow?
Yeah, if you would. Let's
Okay.
talk a little bit about the flow of a dollar through a community.
All right. I became aware in my first 100 meetings or so that it isn't obvious what primary employment is and really how economic development dollars flow through a community. And so we tried to put together a visual, and forgive me if this is oversimplified for this audience, but I'll start at the left. You know, every economy thrives on its primary employers, and primary employers are those employers who export out 50% or more of their goods and services. So think Smuckers, think Seagate, think Migron. Those customers are not local. Economies will not survive without primary employers. These primary employers can be anywhere from a 2-person shop in a garage building satellites in space to a Seagate. So primary employers are important for the economy because they bring fresh dollars into the economy every day. You need those. From there, they attract employers and talent, and the people buy houses, so the residential community is stronger. And then the people in the household need to go and spend money on wealth services, dry cleaning, restaurants, and visitors. I forgot to mention, Sarah's here to represent Visit Longmont. Tourism is really a great example of a primary industry because those dollars come in, they're here for a short time, spend money, and they leave. So it's a great infusion of cash into the community. Therefore, retail and services grow in our community, our Main Street, and their taxes flow to public and to government to afford great spaces like this, open space, public safety, infrastructure. So this cycle is really important to understand because without all of these, Longmont does a great job in all these categories. But if the government, therefore, is doing well, then our community is very prosperous, and that helps attract primary employers and all employers, really. So that's the cycle, and our ALE partners play a role in all of these spaces. So I'll stop there because I'm over my 30 seconds.
You're
You know
good.
me, I talk a lot, so I'll stop.
And ale is advanced Longmont, right?
Thank you.
Clarify that. And that's really important, Kelly, too, because I think a lot of times we hear, what does pro-business mean? And for us here on this stage in this group, we see pro-business as all of the above. So whether that's a large primary employer, a small primary employer, all of the different service and retail businesses, all of it. That's what we see as pro-business. Kimberly, I'm going to go to you next. I've heard you describe the downtown as Longmont's living room. It's a place that I think we are all proud of. Many of the businesses in your district are small and independently owned and operated. Can you talk to us a little bit about where you see the LDDA in reference to this chart?
Sure. I was hoping that Scott wouldn't call me the oldest person up here. Maybe longest tenured, but not oldest. So as we look over here, I think, the DDA works a lot on the far side of that graphic. The board has made some strategic investments in housing downtown to bring more people that are living. Obviously, our backbone is our locally owned and independently operated businesses, which I believe really helps kind of paint the fabric of Longmont. Longmont itself as a town is an independent, freestanding city, and so downtown certainly mirrors a lot of that. And the retail service growth. However, we do hope to work with Kelly to continue to bring primary employment into downtown because it's really important to us to have people that are working downtown, living downtown, and coming to enjoy all of our amenities.
So Kimberly, when we're driving around in the downtown or walking, we're seeing a lot of new development and there's some new projects. Can you tell us or can you give us some insight into any new developments that we are not seeing? So tell us something new.
Sure, absolutely. There is a complete rehab of 704 Main, which is right across from Long's Peak Pub. It used to be a pawn shop, so maybe not the best performing real estate that we have. So there's an investor who has a local person who's working to redevelop that, and we're going to have some wonderful new businesses that you'll probably see opening in the spring. So that's fantastic. They're coming in for a new submittal for the Granary Food Hall, so a lot of people might have thought that wasn't happening, but that is happening and has some really interesting things that's going to help the sense of place. And we've had the honor to work with the city of Longmont to really look at that safety and justice parking lot that you see there right across from where the new hotel is, and you kind of drive down to park. We'll be building a podium on top of that and adding 45 more spaces back into the inventory for that part. So we're very happy to be working with them. And then 600 Main, our board finally snapped and said, we cannot see this vacant lot here anymore. So the board decided to purchase that and are really making it into a town square. So that 600 Main will be a gathering point and a focal point of our community. So we're excited for that.
That's great. Yes, you can applaud for that. So let's go back to 740 Main. Was that 704? As I was walking by the other day, I saw a sign there for an Indian hamburger place.
Yes.
Is that true?
Yes, Gaia
Just checking, 'cause
Masala
I'm gonna be
burger,
there.
and it's going to be fantastic. I will tell you, we're building a late night hub there. For those of you who think that we're all closed at 7, those buildings are going to be open with Chiba Hut and Gaia Masala till 2 a.m., 3 a.m. if you're hungry. So don't forget to get your late night eats there.
All right, cool. You can now stay up late in downtown Longmont. Sarah, I'm going to go to you next. Sometimes tourism is called the invisible export in local economies. And I'm not sure if we all would see Longmont as a tourist destination. So would you talk to us a little bit about the impact that visitors have in our community, whether that be through jobs or tax revenues, and why, as a Longmont resident, should we care?
Sure, yeah. When I first came to Longmont, I think a lot of people didn't see visitation in Longmont. And being that invisible export, we're not providing a physical product. We, as a tourism community, provide experiences and services to travelers and guests that do come to Longmont. So there's all types of travelers and visitation in the travel and tourism sector definitions. And Longmont does see leisure travelers. I'm sure you've welcomed your own visiting friends and family, and business travelers. And these visitors spend money and time throughout the community. Just a little bit about Visit Longmont's core mission in that we are a destination marketing and management organization, and I'll talk a little bit about that when I think we've had conversations about stewardship, but I do want to read, and I just want to get it right, so I do have old school piece of paper, some visitor data that we've been able to do in the last 3 years at Visit Longmont. So in 2023, we did an economic impact study. 600,000 visitors traveled to Longmont, infusing over $205.7 million of direct spending into the city. So that's visitor spending into the city through sales tax and other fees that help support city services. The total overall economic impact that year to the city was over $277 million. And we estimate just over 3,000 jobs are supported by the travel and tourism industry or sector. And so when I say travel and tourism, it is broader than the hospitality industry. I think many people think of our hotels and maybe short-term rentals, but the travel and tourism sector in my mind are those accommodations, but also restaurants and our breweries and gift shops and retail, any indirect business that also supports or serves and provides experiences to visitors. And that year, travelers supported a wide variety of our local businesses, especially businesses that year in 2023, especially businesses with food and drink. And in fact, visitors accounted for the largest share of visitor spending at our food and drink establishments at almost a third. So to your question, Scott, what does all this data mean? I can, talk on a bunch of numbers, I think, as we do in presentations. But one way to look at it, and I thought was really compelling from that report, is in the absence of the tourism industry that year, again, every household in Longmont would need to spend an extra $7,000 to keep the local economy operating at the same level. So that, in my mind, means visitor spending, they're supporting local businesses, and then they're providing for city revenue to support services that as residents we all value as well. And with investments, I think kudos to our city partners and city council, because with the investment that Longmont has made in destination marketing and tourism and destination management, the city has made Visit Longmont, and with a newly established tourism improvement district, we now have a competitive budget to be able to continue to invest in media and marketing to attract those quality visitors that we want to spend time and money throughout our community. We know through research, when visitors stay longer, they spend more time and they spend more money supporting local businesses.
Those are fantastic figures, and I'm just thinking about that $7,000. I don't have that sitting around, so I'm glad that they came in and spent that for us. Yeah, so we need more of them, right? You were instrumental in helping us bring the Ice Climbing World Cup to Longmont. Why do you think we were chosen?
Well, let me clarify. I don't think I was instrumental. We really also have to give credit to our business partners at the Climbing Collective here in Longmont, and I'm sure many of you know or have seen their big wall and their down near Sandstone. So it was really the owners, Brian and his team over there, that recruited and brought that type of event to Longmont. Super appreciative, because I think that type of event is a really great fit for a destination or a community like Longmont. It fits with I think, Longmont's vibe of being an outdoor space, of having a unique or kind of special niche sport activity. With being in the Front Range in this part of Colorado, rock climbing and mountain climbing are adjacent to the ice climbing. I hadn't even heard of ice climbing before they brought the event to us. And they are really putting on that event logistically at their location. If any of you went to the inaugural event last year. But those type of events that really fit well with our community can only grow and I think provide that multiplier effect around economic development And beyond economic development, also providing those quality experiences to visitors. Because when you have benefits, obviously economic benefits are important, but when you have benefits beyond that, I think you have more engaged visitors, you have the connections between residents, and I think it just makes for a better experience and you're stewarding your community. So we look forward. Next February is the second year of the World Ice Cup, and they are planning bigger and better things. So as residents, please go out and visit and learn about ice climbing. It's really fun to watch. And then hopefully we can get messaging out to bring more visitors to experience it too, and experience other parts of Longmont.
That's great. Big shout out to the Climbing Collective for doing their part to making Longmont cool. All right. Just a reminder for everybody in the audience, if you have questions, take out your phone, scan that QR code on your program, and submit your question. We'll get to those in just a little bit. Kimberly, I'm going to go back to you now because I know that we're going to get this question from the audience. So, audience, just save your fingers there. I'm going to go ahead and ask the question that many of you are thinking. Kimberly, when is Winchell's Donuts opening?
So raise your hand if you're moderately ashamed of how much you want them to open. I think it should be all of us. Yeah. Yes, I know, exactly. I will tell you the last update I got, 1 month. I will not tell you what day I got that update. But they're working hard, and I have seen so much progress. I crawled up on their windowsill and peeked over their paper, and it's looking good.
That's great. That's the best news we've heard so far, Kimberly. Okay. Kelly, you came from a neighboring community, Loveland. My first question is, do people in Loveland love donuts as much as we do?
We absolutely do. I'm very excited.
What are your first impressions of Longmont?
I have been thinking about this question, and it's hard for me to answer because there's a flood of thoughts. I mean, driving around, I see prosperity, I see vibrancy, I see really happy people, and maybe I'm a little bit Pollyanna-ish, but this community surprises me because I've lived in Longmont in northern Colorado since 1986, and I know I can't go into a restaurant without bumping into somebody I know, and then just a few miles south, I don't know anyone in Longmont. I'm like, why didn't I raise my children here? I love this community. The school district, the civility of the policymakers. I mean, if anybody knows Loveland, we're having a few troubles up there with council, and coming down here and watching the attitude of the council and the policymakers and how well everybody works together. So the list goes on and on and on and on. I also think this group of business supporters is so aligned, and they welcomed me. It's been exciting to see. I think we don't share enough about how awesome this community is, and I hope to change that. I don't want too many people coming, but you want it to be a strategic growth. So those are my immediate impressions: vibrant, aligned, awesome.
That's an interesting point, Kelly, because I've also thought that too, that we do things really well here in Longmont, especially when it comes to infrastructure, and then we don't tell anybody. Yeah. And so that's part of what our organizations have been working on quite a bit. And I'll give a shout out to Valerie Dodd at the city as well, and Next Light for pulling all of our organizations together and working on marketing for our community. So Valerie's here somewhere. You mentioned in your comments to our school district, and later this morning we're going to hear from both the St. Vrain Valley School District and Front Range Community College. Can you talk to us a little bit about the importance of really quality educational systems and how it impacts your work?
I just mentioned I wish I would have raised my children in St. Vrain because I am supremely impressed with the innovation, the P-TECH programs, the alignment with Front Range, the handoff to Front Range Community College and the universities. It's extremely impressive. I have worked in communities which will go unnamed that had poor school districts, maybe being taken over by the state, and trying to attract employers to the communities with poor school districts is impossible. So St. Vrain Front Range will make my job so much easier because that's really one of the first questions employers ask when they're looking at the area. And having done this for almost 30 years, I'm going to generalize this, but it's the company comes in, the executives come in, they look at the community, all the data. It was a ton of work to get them involved in the community, and but who comes in next? And this is sexist a little bit, but the wives. And the wives say, okay, I want my kids to be safe. I want my children to go to good schools. And hands down, that's a top decision maker. And it's not always the wives. It could be the husbands. But the schools are very important.
That's fantastic. And I think what I want to point out in here, too, is that while you see these folks up here today on this stage, the Advanced Longmont program actually consists of 13 different organizations. And I know you see the school district's logo and Front Range Community College up here, but we are all part of this one very large ecosystem. So thank you, Kelly. Kimberly, a question on infrastructure. I mentioned a little bit ago about the Kaufman Street project. We also have the new Hotel Longmont. Why these projects? And do you believe that these would be catalysts to further development in the downtown?
Great. Thanks for asking that. Thanks for anyone who has pardoned our dust in the past year or so. We know that it's been a lot. But these kind of investments are huge for our community. We really want all roads and modes of transportation to lead right into the heart of Longmont and to connect us throughout the Front Range and the world. And I think with Mayor Peck continuing on with Front Range Rail, with what we have done with bus rapid transit, Kaufman Street has really come alive. And not only has it come alive in an infrastructure way, but it's really awoken those property owners to say, what is the highest and best use of this? Downtown is our central business district, right? So as they start to look at, hey, maybe this could be a better performing whatever it is, I think there's huge opportunity. And sometimes that infrastructure is really what helps spark that. Redeveloping in the core of your city is very helpful. You're not taking out any green space. You're not doing anything. You're reinvesting in infrastructure that's already been in place. As we look at the hotel, something that has been on our plan of development when there was no DDA. It was before that. There was a group called the Heart of Longmont. Folks have wanted a lodging opportunity in our downtown. We've worked with Sarah and the tourism office to really say, we have so many unique gathering spaces in downtown that we really can be competitive in a different way to bring in meetings and conferences and things like that into our community to bring that outside money. We love that outside money. Here's my money. Now I'm going home. We're not fixing your potholes. We're not doing those other things, right? That's a great kind of money. So those kind of infrastructure investments really catalyze what we're doing, and it helps spark more and more development.
So speaking of hotels and also transportation, I want to get to Sundance because that's also on everybody's mind. We're told that Boulder, our neighboring community, does not have enough hotel rooms, so we're building some, which is great. And then we're building some transportation infrastructure here as well to get those people here. Sarah, we were one of only 2 communities, the other being Denver, to financially support our neighboring community, Boulder's bid for the Sundance Film Festival. Why do you think that was, and why was that so important for Longmont?
Right, just to confirm that of the visits of Northern Colorado and also throughout the state, like there's Visit Loveland, there's Visit Longmont, obviously, Visit Fort Collins, Visit Boulder. The Visit Longmont Board of Directors right away, really it was kind of an easy ask and a commitment to pledge a financial commitment in the bid when Visit Boulder led the bid to bring Sundance to Colorado in 2027, and along with Visit Denver. So, and obviously Boulder, Visit Boulder and their community. I was really proud of the Visit Longmont board. I think it was important to make that commitment, not only to have a voice at the table so that we could intentionally market for when visitors come or when that industry and that whole film festival happens in Boulder. We see, and you probably see, we get overflow from football games or people going to Rocky Mountain National Park. People are going to come anyway. But with marketing and destination marketing, I think it's really smart to be intentional and have a voice at the table of how we're going to market and how we're going to position Longmont so that our community can receive the best benefits from that opportunity.
Great. Kimberly, I'm going to go to you next. Actually, I'm going to do a quick time check with Haley here. Are we okay? All right. Kimberly, often in our our challenging economic times, our independent and small businesses are impacted first. What are we seeing or what are you hearing from your businesses regarding two big topics, tariffs and minimum wage?
Obviously, these are the number 1 and 2 things that coat every single one of our discussions. I couldn't be more honored and proud to work with these fantastic folks that are in here day in and day out. Being independent means that you are independent and there is no kind of safety net or group behind you that's helping you kind of navigate some of these major changes. Tariffs, I think, at our last meeting, it is pretty severely impacting about 70% of the businesses that were there. They're seeing tags and things like that that are really starting to catch up. They're seeing those in the goods that they buy. And the minimum wage discussion is very, very concerning to our business owners. They work very hard. They have employees that they do all types of things for. Most of them do pay over minimum wage and will continue to do everything that they can for their employees. But they need to be nimble and be able to kind of grow and do things on their own as they're looking at what they can do for their employees and what they can do overall. There has been, it's sometimes described as death by 1,000 cuts, the regulations and things that have been put on our small business community over time. Each and every one of them looks very good on its own, and it looks like a very small impact on its own. But as you add them all up over time with escalating prices and tariffs and those types of things, it's hard. And they often don't pass those costs on to the consumer. And some of them don't get to pay themselves, right? So our independent and local businesses, I think, are so important. Taking that extra effort to support them and appreciate them is so important for all of us. But it's not easy, and it's uncertain times, right? And so as you're wondering what's going to happen, it does cause a little bit of concern.
Scott, do you want to show the slide, the pyramid slide? That kind of ties into what
Yes, let's go there.
saying. So we just put this together to show the community how many businesses are in the community and the wages, the average wages. So Longmont, and this is from CU Lead School, the QCEW data for the data nerds in the audience. There's 3,770 in businesses. Now, if you look at how many have under 6 employees, and those aren't always secondary businesses. Those could be primary or secondary, but the majority have under 6 employees. I always think that's fascinating to show and reflect this way. So to Kimberly's point, how important are the small businesses are the heartbeat of Longmont. We've got to take care of them.
Yeah, and depending on how you define small business, right? I mean, at the Longmont Chamber, we'll define it a little bit differently than the federal government because the vast majority of our businesses in Longmont are small. But at the Chamber, we look at 50 and below, and that represents over 85% of our membership. So
The federal government defines small business as 500 and below. So we see it a little differently.
Kimberly, I want to go back to a conversation that we actually had as a group earlier already, and that was during the minimum wage conversations that you and I were very much a part of. One of the comments that was made by a business owner was that if you want to own and operate a business in Longmont, you should look at it as a hobby, meaning you should have another source of income, a spouse with income or other sources of income. Do you agree with that?
Nope.
Why is that?
I believe that an independent retailer or a restaurant or whatever, oftentimes they do need to diversify their revenue source. So whether that means selling online or doing different things, I think it is important to have diversity when you can of revenue. But I think sometimes the misconception is that these are hobbyist businesses and these aren't sophisticated business owners and these aren't people that understand what they're doing. They absolutely are. They are so smart. They are putting everything that they are in it. It's not a hobby. It's not, I'll come if you want to, and if not, I'll just go back to whatever it is I'm doing. These are careers. These are driven professionals. These are folks that know so much more, and they help each other. And I will say it's the one thing that I'm really just in shock and awe. As independent business owners, they do know that they're stronger together. And so always promoting each other, always buying from each other, always doing all the things that they can to take the extra mile. So these are absolute careers. These are absolutely the backbone of our business economy. They are very smart, and they're doing it to make a living.
And what I said earlier to you too is that I sort of disagree with you. I agree with everything that you're saying about these are very sophisticated business owners, and I would encourage everybody in the audience, as you walk down Main Street or any other place where we have our small businesses, that you meet some of these owners. They are fascinating, very smart people that know what they're doing. I just don't want to get to a point where it is so difficult to start a business that it does become a hobby and it does have to be second place to something else. And so when I hear that coming from the business community, I think let's not go there. Let's see what we can do to prevent us from getting there. Sarah, back to you on Sundance business attraction. What do you think? And I want to keep this. Do we still have? Yeah, we have this slide up here with employment behind us. What do you think may be opportunities for Longmont in attracting businesses that would relocate here because of Sundance? You've done the work or helped to do the work to have Sundance here, but how do we position Longmont for business attraction?
Right, so at Visit Longmont, our core mission is about attracting visitors with intentional marketing and messaging and positioning Longmont in a way that complements what Boulder's doing. I think we have the best of both worlds, actually, because Boulder will have to deal with a lot of people in their core downtown area, a lot of other issues that we maybe in Longmont don't have to deal with as much. And we'll have visitors. I know we'll have visitors and new people finding out about Longmont at a time of year that definitely has low hotel capacity and I think lower economic activity. Because if you don't know, the Sundance Film Festival is historically at the end of January, beginning of February for 10 days. And so adjacent to the film festival, sponsors, vendors, businesses that support the film industry in anything that you can think of come a little bit before and a little bit after. And along with that, also indirectly, visitors that are coming might be a business owner that wants to expand a business in a new location or is visiting Colorado for the first time. And so Kelly and I had this conversation where I know destination marketing. I know how to intentionally put campaigns together and look at visitor research and do those kind of things. And then I said to Kelly, how do you, though, make a presence with potential investors? And so, not to defer to Kelly, but we had that conversation that there's this other opportunity.
I really want to talk to the economic development team in Park City and learn about the supply chain to the Sundance Festival and understand who those industries are. And then let's go after them and build it here. I mean, build that economy here. I think there's probably a good infrastructure already, but I'm sure there are gaps. So I'm excited to hear about what happened organically to them there, because it was there. They didn't have to attract it, it came. But now we can learn from that. And I think there's a chance for us to have networking and during that 10 days and to really dive deep the first year into what can we do and who are they. let's go get them.
And then be on the lookout for famous people walking down Main Street. And
Forget about
they
that.
might want their next film location somewhere.
Added bonus. And I can't believe you don't know about ice climbing from Alaska. Sorry, digress. Back to that.
I did think the same thing, but I didn't say it. Kelly said
I
it.
did an ice climb in Alaska.
All right, great. Well, let's go to a few questions from the audience. So Cindy Mackin with the LEDP will help moderate those questions. And Cindy is also brand new to LEDP, so I think if many of you haven't met her, this is your opportunity to meet her today. Cindy.
Oh, I'm getting old. I have to wear glasses. Hello. Very nice to meet all of you. I do work with Kelly at LEDP. So I am going to read these anonymous questions to all of you. Can you give updates on the minimum wage issue and how it affects the economic discussion, housing, restaurants, etc.? Who would like to take this one?
Oops, Kimberly's turned that one back over to me. All right, well, there's two important meetings actually happening next week on October 21st. One with Boulder County, so the commissioners who have passed the minimum wage increase in Boulder County, which applies to unincorporated areas of the county, they have a schedule, which is actually one of the more aggressive schedules to raise minimum wage, but they're getting a lot of pushback from county residents, and so they are hearing some of the residents talk about the concerns they have, and the commissioners are, I believe, considering either delaying that schedule or putting a pause to it. Also, I know that City Council will look at this next week here for Longmont, so it's just important to remember that the City of Longmont Council makes the decision for minimum wage for our city, incorporated areas of Longmont, and then the county is making that decision, as I said, for unincorporated areas of the county. So the Chamber and the LDDA have been working very closely on this issue. We do see this as a concern for many of our small businesses. I also just want to say that we very much do understand the concern, and probably nobody understands the concern of employees more than their employers. We have a lot of great employers here in Longmont that are trying to do the best. They're trying to match salaries to the market. They're trying to do their very best to take care of their employees. These are very difficult times when it comes to wages, employee benefits, things like that. The same market pressures that the employees are having, those are the same pressures that employers are having as well. So there is a balance in there somewhere, but we do see a real concern with what some other communities have done in their aggressive approach to raising the minimum wage in their communities or in their counties.
Wonderful, thank you. What impact has the changes, we're scrolling. What impact has the changes in national policy and government made in Longmont?
Well, I really wish that Carla was here because she speaks so eloquently to this issue. But Kelly,
I'm wondering which changes in national policy. It's a tough thing to answer. I mean, I go right to tariffs and the flux in that system, and not what I hear from business, small and large. Or we don't know what the heck's going on out of the national policy right now. So I don't know that in Longmont. I guess if you've talked to the legislators, that are in DC, we can maybe make more of an impact there. So that's how I would answer that. It's hard to know.
Can I just jump in too, just from the travel and tourism sector? I know that for a while, research partners nationwide have seen cautious travel behavior. So in Longmont, that trickles down to not as many people might be coming to visit national parks because while they are still open, they have limited staff and they're adjusting how they can provide services. So we're watching federal policy and also on visa times and people and groups wanting to come to the United States. So it does make an impact. It does trickle down to a community like Longmont in that people are more cautious in traveling and spending money, discretionary money. So we are watching that.
Okay. I love this question. Are there any plans to bring in any other events like the ice climbing competition to Longmont?
Yes, in fact, I think I mentioned the city council approved and working with our city partners and other partners, the hotel community in Visit Longmont, we just established a Longmont Tourism Improvement District. And with that district, it does provide added value to what Visit Longmont does anyway in core marketing services. So we maintain a website, we do some social and digital advertising. With the Longmont Tourism Improvement District, which our hotel partners brought to the table, their specific request when we were working on it was, let's bring in more dedicated events like the World Ice Cup that benefits multiple hotels and benefits the community. So with that additional funding, the plans are to hire a dedicated sales event meeting salesperson to go out into national, international, and find those groups, events, meetings that are the right fit for Longmont. So whether Kimberly mentioned downtown meeting spaces have really evolved, and there's some really, I think, special experiences you can curate with those meeting spaces, along with helping fill those, and beyond weddings, we can now be proactive with the salesperson to reach out to those events.
All right, do we have time for one more question? Okay. Focus on development often creates challenges for communities of color in terms of cost of living. How are we navigating this in the development processes? Do you want me to read it again? You got it?
Well, Kimberly, I have an answer. Do you want to answer? Though you haven't. I mean, this is a tough one because I would contend good development helps communities of color. And so a focus on development in the right way helps lift all boats. And I believe that this community has a really great job at that. This is an amazingly culturally diverse community from my perspective, coming from farther up north in Colorado. But of course, that we can always work on cost of living. I mean, the average price of a home here is $670,000, and that I know that's not we're not spearheading that work, but we're aligned with the work that continues to go on by the city and Harold and his group to work on that. So I don't know if that answers the person's question. I would love to talk offline about that. I think we all would if we understood a little more about the context of the question.
I mean, I would just echo that we do work with the Latino Chamber. We work with other folks to make sure that our businesses are supported. We started from the DDA a Spanish-speaking business owners meeting that is, fully integrated. And so we're trying to do things like that. But also, when we're looking at the cost of living and housing, the DDA put in $2 million for the Spoke on Kaufman to make sure that there are affordable housing as well as market rate housing in our downtown to kind of diversify it. So I do think it is something that we keep at top of mind and hope to connect people with what they need.
All right, great. Thank you, Cindy. I want to thank Kelly from the Longmont Economic Development Partnership, Kimberly from the Longmont Downtown Development Authority, and Sarah from Visit Longmont. Thank you so much for joining us. All right. Next, I would like to welcome Mark Shealy to the stage. He is with Front Range State Bank, And Front Range State Bank is our charter sponsor of this event going back all 3 years. So thank you, Mark, for joining us this morning.
Good morning, everybody. Very good discussion. I think we just heard from all of our Longmont Advanced partners. I think the conversation we just heard is the perfect reminder that economic vitality truly takes a community. It takes business leaders, educators, local government, and most importantly, it takes all of us choosing to invest in Longmont's future together. We truly are stronger together. Front Range State Bank is honored to sponsor this event, especially at a time when it can feel difficult for people to come together in a free exchange of ideas. I really appreciated Mayor Peck's comments earlier. That's what makes gatherings like this so meaningful. They remind us of the strength we find in community and the importance of listening, discussing, and developing a shared understanding as we determine the best path forward for the city of Longmont. We are very proud to sponsor the first State of the City event, and we're even more excited to stand here again today, 3 years later. This event reflects exactly what we believe in, the power of partnership and the shared responsibility of building a thriving local economy. For us, serving this community isn't just about banking, it's about trust, relationships, and helping people to reach their goals. It's truly an honor to continue supporting this platform for dialogue and collaboration. And now, it's my pleasure to introduce someone who embodies the same dedication to our city's success and our keynote speaker, Longmont City Manager Harold Dominguez.
Thank you, sir. So I move around a lot. So they gave me a mic on my, I'm gonna turn that, you gonna turn this one off? So good. So when I was getting ready to come in this morning, my wife was talking to me and she goes, "What suit are you gonna wear?" And I'm like, I don't know if I really wanna wear a suit. And I said, well, I think I'm gonna wear this funky shirt. And I think what, for me, that really embodies is really this community. So I've worked in other communities, and you never would have thought that there was an opportunity to present at a State of the City address and you're not in a suit and tie and you're addressing these issues. And so I think that really the comfort level that we have in our community lets us truly be ourselves, which is, I think, one of the powers of Longmont that we often don't pay attention to. Is we're our own community. We chart our own path. We look at things, and that shows itself every day. And when we look at our organization, it shows itself in our Longmont Power, shows ourselves in Nextlight, shows what we've done in housing. So every day you see different things that we've done as a community that dates back to the founding of this community, our water rights, that really exemplifies the attitude that Longmont's maintained from its founding days to today. And I think that's a power that often goes taken for granted in a community, but it is what differentiates communities from each other. Listening to the previous panel was fun for me because, as you will see from this, we talk to each other a lot. I think we all have each other's cell phones as issues are coming up. We're texting each other. And what I think you're going to see is a theme of something that we're talking about. So as I was thinking about putting this presentation together yesterday, by the way, I told them I'm one of the least prepared presenters that you will probably ever find. It was really good for me to see what they were talking about because I think it actually starts showing how we're going to tie everything together and how the city really sits into this world of community. So, a healthy community starts with what we see. Every day that we drive through our community and look and see what's going on, that's what people look at. That's what people look at that you never know are looking at your community. And they're assessing what's happening. They're watching city council meetings, and you don't know they're watching it. They're watching community conversations, and they're paying attention. The other day, Kelly called me and said, we have an economic development prospect, and we're in the top 8 in consideration for this business. Historically, what would have happened is we would have gotten a lead. It would have come in. We wouldn't have known what the company is. We still don't know what the company is. We would put that information in through the state. Then we would wait and see, and then they would start narrowing it down. And then they would say, oh, you either made the short list or you didn't. The fact that we're now seeing economic development leads coming in and they're telling us on the front end that we're in the top 8 is really showing us that people are watching the community in ways that we don't realize. You never know when somebody's walking down Main Street going through our downtown, and they're here to evaluate whether or not they want to locate their business in our community. That's the reality of where we are today as cities, and behind that is competition. We hear a lot of conversations about cities don't compete with each other. I'm here to tell you we do. We are constantly competing with each other. We're competing with each other for the brightest, the most talented, the most diverse economic condition that we can have in our community, because we clearly know that if we're not winning that competition, our residents are ones that suffer for it. And what I mean by that is you got a sense of what everyone's talking about in terms of what really generates the revenue that we see within our systems. I've worked in 3 different communities. It's the same situation in every community, and I'll dive into that in some future slides. So what's beneath the surface? The reality for us is everything that they talked about earlier is it's dependent on each and every one of us. Government is only one piece of the puzzle. And I often say, for folks that look to government to solve all the problems, we can't, and we can't do anything alone. But I do want to talk about this piece for a little bit in terms of this organization. I see a lot of my team members out here in the audience. So those of you that work for the city, can you please stand up? Wow, there's a lot of you here today. Give these folks a hand. I'm going to introduce the new Assistant City Manager, Jen Uten. Jen? Jen has a long history actually here. Jen started, I think, her career with the Longmont Times-Call, and then she decided to go to the bright side and join government. And she got her MPA, and she's worked through her career to get to come back to Longmont. Something that's interesting here that really stood out for me 3 or 4 weeks ago. So I work with a psychologist on organizational development and organizational culture issues, and I've worked with him for in excess of 20 years. And he comes in and he talks to our organization, and he's worked with probably a minimum of 100,000 municipal employees, probably at least 1,000 cities across the nation. And he doesn't hold anything from me when he's telling me this is what you need to work on and this is what you need to do. But the one thing he said to me is he goes, I've worked with a lot of different cities. And he said, I can tell you that this city is the friendliest. He goes, but by far, the staff that you have in your organization is the smartest city staff that I've seen in any other community that I've worked with. And that's really a testament to what they do. Because every day they give every bit of what they have on behalf of this community, whether or not it's making sure our parks are in good conditions, our streets are there, we have the fastest internet in the United States. Where's Valerie? Where's Valerie? See, okay, I didn't forget it, Valerie. But this is what it's about. It's about all of us, and it's about all of us coming together to make our community the best that it can be. What's behind this is systems theory. So I I was playing with artificial intelligence yesterday, and I said, can you give me a graphic of systems theory? And what made me think of this is you all may not know this, but the governor appointed me to the RTD Accountability Committee, which has been an interesting experience. I was quite frustrated a week ago in the conversation, but what I'm finding is that there's a lot of complexity to communities, and there's a lot of complexity to municipal organizations that often goes unnoticed, and really what that means and everything that's in play when we're going through our daily lives trying to bring something together. So we're going to do a little bit of, I'm going to engage you all a little bit. One of the things that I talk to the organization about when we do trainings and I lead it, I ask this question to everyone. Can you all name something that we do as a city organization that does not touch another part of our city organization? Who wants to jump in on this one? City staff, you can't play in this one. Anybody want to have a guess? Pardon? Something that someone with the city of Longmont that they do that doesn't touch another part of the organization. It's interesting. I've asked this question for 20 years. For my staff, I offer to buy them lunch. If anyone can stump me, no one's ever stumped me because there's nothing that we do as an organization that doesn't touch another part of our organization. Is there anything that we do that doesn't touch our community in some way? There's not. Everything that we do on a daily basis touches our community. Everything that we do, we touch each other, which is really kind of driving us in this world of how do we approach it more from a systems thinking perspective in terms of how we operate on a daily basis. And this is something that we're starting to ingrain in our organization with our strategic integration group. We're doing things where we're doing more data-informed work in terms of really building data systems. We're utilizing technology at a high level, so we're in the process right now of transitioning into Salesforce so we have a better connection with our residents in our community. We're utilizing it to determine how we best approach difficult situations. Christina Pacheco and Becky are in the back. They have created a system, and I always forget the name of it because it started out as a different name, CareNet, but it's basically a system where we are attaching every part of our organization that provides services through our social service groups to the community, so that at any point in time when we're serving a particular individual, let's say they come into my office, I can type their name into it and I'll know who they're working with, connect them with that individual. Those individuals can connect with each other across different lines. And so what we're able to do is really very quickly, we're more efficient, we're more effective, but at the end of the day, we're serving the resident of our community at a higher level. That's what we're building organizationally when we take this systems approach. This is something that starts tying into businesses driving economic vitality. I'm not going to spend as much time as I planned on this slide because they did a phenomenal job. And so I don't need to go into it. But this is where government starts setting into the foundation of the community. And there is a foundation of stability. And when we look at it, especially in Longmont, Longmont is one of the few cities that's truly full service. In that the only thing we don't provide is natural gas. That is really rare in the municipal world. And so we do have the ability to engage in ways that most communities don't. And that's actually really started to show itself as a significant advantage for us when we talk about economic and business development and how we can approach different situations. I want you all to think about something. There's been a lot of media attention on things that have occurred in municipalities across the United States. What do you think about when you think about cities that really have the strong foundation and cities that don't have the strong foundation? What's the first thing that comes to your mind? I'm a government geek. I can think through this. If you think about what happened in Flint, Michigan, where their water system was compromised and they're still struggling with that, that makes a difference in how people perceive communities. What's your reliability rates on your electricity and your broadband that you're providing your community? Those are things that are foundational to our everyday lives. So how does this start coming together? This is something that we've been working on for a few years. The city council and the council manager form of government actually establishes the policy directives. My job is then to implement those policy directives, and this is what we've been focusing on. And so many of you may have seen this. This gives you a sense and some details. Go to our website so you can look at this information. But really, one of the things that we talked about a lot with the council is this section of core services. That's probably 90% of what we do on a daily basis, is really work in our core service area. There's nothing worse than waking up in the morning and having a text that says, we have a large power outage, or we have a water outage in some locations. I've lived it. One day I got a text in my first community that I was a city manager in, and we lost water to 75% of our community. That's a bad day. That turned into a bad few weeks for us. And it was a simple valve failure or multiple valve failures that created that issue. So that's an example of how important the infrastructure is and that core infrastructure is into a system. So how do you start operationalizing that? And this is where I'm going to start tying some things together that we've worked with as an organization. And really the budget becomes the backbone of our operations. I partner with Bob Allen, who is now retired, but worked for the organization for a long period of time. And Bob would teach a class at CU for engineers. I would come in and kick off the first class with him. And now we're doing this internally to the organization. And one of the slides that we actually present is this concept of what do you control and what do you not control? I think a lot of people think we control a lot, but the reality is we don't. And that was probably one of the first lessons that I had to learn becoming a city manager, and I think just government employees generally, is we tend to sit here and go, what do we control? But I think the first thing that we have to do is really embrace what we don't control. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about this. So if you look over here and you think of material cost and labor cost and interest rates, disruptors into the systems or requests for services and tax revenue and federal and state regulations, those are all things that are impacting us on a daily basis. So some of the questions that came out earlier, are tariffs impacting it? Yep. I can say unequivocally right now that the cost for us to build things, to repave streets, is impacted by that. I can also say to you that our sales and use tax revenue is impacted by that. And I'll get into that in a little bit more detail in the next slide. Federal and state regulations plays a big part in this. So when we think about our development processes and things that we require of businesses when they're locating in our community, one of the biggest things that we deal with tends to be stormwater and water quality. Those are actually regulations that are imposed by federal and state government that we then have to implement. And if we don't implement them in accordance with their rules, they will take that authority away from us, and the state will start regulating it. So every day, these things are in play. And then we're looking at what can we control. Then we're trying to fit it in within the budget process to accomplish everything that the council and the community wants us to accomplish. Here's the epiphany for me. On either side of this it can be a headwind or a tailwind. And at the end of the day, it's the community that's actually feeling the headwind or the tailwind in terms of what we're able to do. And so we're always trying to balance this to put it into a position where even if it's a tailwind, how can we slow the speed of the wind so that we can get things done in our organization from a financial perspective? So let's talk about our budget a little bit. The last 3 years have been some of the most difficult budgets that I've dealt with in my career. So we came into the council and we provided a balanced budget. I was going to tell you that I was going to give you the same presentation that we gave to the city council, which was about 3 hours, but it's not. So it was a balanced budget. We looked at all the strategic priorities through the council policy direction and Vision Longmont. And then I see Teresa in the back. We had to start dealing with reality. And changes in state regulations started impacting it. So you all may remember that they changed the ratios for property and sales, property tax for commercial and residential. Had a significant impact in terms of the revenue that's coming into our system. Typically in a reappraisal year, we would see an additional, let's say 3 to 3.5 million of additional revenue. We started out with 1.2 million, I think, in additional revenue. I'm looking at Teresa. We ended up with what, 500,000 in additional, no, 1.2750. It went down a lot once we got the most recent number. We get an estimate before we go into budget. We get the official estimate in August, so we had to pull our numbers down. And then we get the real number in December after the budget's approved. What does that mean for us? In the last budget session, had we not held 2.6 million in ongoing funds that were property tax based to use this year, we actually would have had to cut our budget dramatically. But for that, we were able to pull in some of the challenges that we were facing. And we didn't fund anything other than what we consider to be level 1 expenses, which is must-pay bills. What else is happening? When we look at the national economic headwinds, that really is related to sales and use tax. What I can say to you all today is that if all we relied on is our property tax, that is a small component of our budget. That probably doesn't even cover our full expenses for our public safety department alone. So we're inherently reliant on sales and use tax. So I'm going to kind of answer some questions that came up earlier. Are the tariffs a challenge? Yes, I've talked to a number of CEOs in this community, and what's happening is it's two things. It's the cost of goods and service. One was telling me that they literally purchased equipment before the tariffs were issued, and when they hit the port in the United States, they actually had to pay 145% more for a product than they were planning because of when it was set and when their product landed in the United States. The other piece of this is uncertainty, and the economic uncertainty is creating a lot of challenges, and so what's happening is they're all stopping all their plans. There are groups that have projects that are approved that they're just saying, no, we're going to wait. And what does that mean for us? What that means for us is this year in the budget process, our sales and use tax has been down most of the year. It's actually related to use tax. We have a use tax problem. And our sales tax has been okay, not great, but we have a use tax problem because people aren't building things. And that is a big source of revenue for most government agencies. And I think a lot of times we forget how much that really impacts our budget. But for that use tax, we're looking at other things that we have to do, raising fees, raising other taxes to manage that. So What's happening is that's in place. And so when we look at things like urban renewal and we look at things like economic development and people talk about why are you giving them these incentives, one of the things is that it's not money that we currently have. This is money that they are actually bringing into our community that we're leveraging to do this. It's in the economic development world, we call it the but for, meaning but for them coming in, we don't have this money. And that's a big piece of how we evaluate these decisions that we bring to the community. So we went into this budget and we had a property tax impact and we had a sales and use tax volatility that basically didn't allow us to do anything new. So what does our budget look like? It's $520 million, $500 million. That's a big budget for a city. It's a 9.85% increase. Where a lot of people start getting confused within the municipal budgeting process is because of this. We have, these are our largest funds, but we have a little over 60 individual operating funds within our budget that we have to treat as individual business units. So we go through a fund accounting standpoint and we start treating all of these as individual business units. And then we're regulated from a GASB standpoint, which is the Governmental Accounting Standards Board. We're also regulated by court decisions. Eugene has drilled it in my head that there are court decisions that basically say I can't move money from the water fund into the general fund just to sweep it. Cities have lost cases because they were doing that. There's also provisions within our charter that says I can't, if we move money in from the water fund to the general fund where it's essentially a loan, you can't raise the water rates that you need to. So there's so many restrictions in terms of how you can utilize this revenue and what we're doing. And when we look at this, actually our largest fund is the electric and broadband fund. Most of that is actually the cost of purchase power. Probably 70% of that's the cost of purchase power. When we look at the general fund and we look at that, probably 75% of that is related to people. This is what we talk about in general, but within this, we then separate it out to say there's ongoing funding and there's one-time funding. So when we talk about one-time funding, we talk about capital improvements, and this is what it typically looks like in the types of projects that we fund and how we're approaching this. Our budget's a little bit different in that we have to start collecting money years ahead of when we're going to pull the trigger on a project. Or we go out for a debt issuance. So where a lot of folks start getting confused in our budgeting process is every year in June, we have this huge budget carryover ordinance that's millions of dollars, and it's because we're accumulating funds to actually build a project because our purchasing requirement is that we have the funds in hand before we bid it out. So I wanted to give you a really high-level update because I'm seeing a lot of information about budget and things like that, and I wanted to give you a sense of this is some complexity that we work with. Now, what are we doing? All of these things we've talked about in terms of issues that we're dealing with in our community. So housing is one of the things that I talked about in the last State of the City. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but to connect it to what Kelly said and what Kimberly said, we're hearing this from our business community. And our business community is telling us we need places for people who work for us to live because right now they're living further and further from Longmont. And what that means for the business community is that they're seeing anytime someone has a chance to live, to work closer to where they live, they're taking those opportunities. I see that in our organization. We've lost a number of people to other municipalities because they can work closer to where they live. So there is a direct connection into that world. First and Main Transit Station, Kaufman Street, I've got some pictures on that. Ride Longmont Transit is a big piece of what we're working on. Within the next 2 weeks, we will actually have a item come into the council in terms of our phase 1 development agreement in terms of the transit station. We're under contract with RTD to have that go under construction no later than probably November of 2026, and it has to be ready by the end of December in 2027. That's going to be the transit hub for the buses. The mayor talked about her work on FRPR, RTD, and CDOT and the state have passed their first IGA where they're coming together to hopefully have rail in service, intercity rail in service by the beginning of 2029. That's what Mayor Peck's been working on with Front Range Passenger Rail. The sugar mill is a major issue for us, simply because we understand the impact it's having to our community, opportunities. But when we pull all of these things together, it really is starting to feed into this broader systems approach in terms of how we look at the community as a whole. And start setting the stage for quality of life initiatives that make our city a better place to live. So within this funding structure, we have dedicated tax revenues that go to public safety, open space, transportation, and our public improvement funds. That all is coming from sales and use tax. So as we've struggled with sales and use tax, money that actually goes into these areas is reduced. We actually had to pull positions out of our public safety fund that were higher paid and move them into the general fund because of the lack of revenue that was coming in from sales and use tax. We're not able to do as much on street construction as we would have been able to do had that been performing. In addition, everything's gone up. It costs dramatically more to pave a mile of street than it did 3 years ago, and it costs even more than it did 10 years ago. We're seeing pressures on both sides, but this is important because this is what businesses and people look at in terms of where do they want to live and where do they want to be. So just to give you a sense of some things that's going on, we're in massive park replacements. We're building new parks. In this world, it becomes even more complicated for us because the easy part's actually coming up with the capital dollars. The hard part's coming up with the operational dollars to make sure that you can maintain that over time. One of the things that we're actually really excited about is phase 4 of the Sandstone Ranch Complex. This is actually will be the first new ball field that we will have built in 20 years. So if you think about how long it's been since a recreational amenity has been added to our community in terms of ball fields, 20 years, and we're at max capacity today. But this gives you a sense of what we're trying to work on. Picture of what we've been doing on Kaufman Street in this section. The picture on the left is really interesting because this is really about the quiet zone project that we've been undertaking. This is one of those where we don't have a lot of control because in order to do the quiet zones, the Public Utilities Commission said, you've got to close 2, in conjunction with BNSF, 2 crossings in order to do this and also get Boston Avenue connected across the railroad track so we can have a more robust east-west connection within our community. And they put us through the ringer for years, but really this shows a quiet zone that's been built, but it shows some of the paving work that we have to do. This is really that core work that we do on a regular basis to make sure that we're keeping our infrastructure up to date. Behind this, what you don't see from a systems theory approach is all of our departments are working with each other so that we don't repave a road and then come in and cut a road because now we have to replace the water lines. So there are multiple systems behind this working to make sure that the projects are occurring all at once so we don't waste money coming into our organization. The reality, and I think the theme of what the group said before and what we're talking about now is, really together we create a sustainable, resilient, and thriving community. And I want to pick on the word sustainable. A lot of people interpret sustainability in many different ways. I'm using sustainable in a more global sense. Are we financially stable? Are we operationally sustainable? Those are things that I think about. Is environmental sustainability part of it and part of the goals the council gave us? Yes, but a sustainable community is much more than just that. It is, can we ensure that 50 years from now, we can do everything that we're doing today? And how are we ensuring that sustainability over time? I won't be here 20 years from now. Highly likely 10 years from now because I'm eligible for retirement soon. But I say that because it's not just about what's happening today. We're looking 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years out to really position the community to be as strong as it can be. Because going back to that water issue I talked about, I never want to put somebody in that position that I was put into 6 months after I became a city manager. But we all have to play in this world. And today it's even harder for us when we look at the conversations that are occurring and how people are approaching situations. It takes every one of us to come together to make our community as great as we possibly can and make sure that we can sustain that in the future. So now let's get to your questions.
Am I supposed to stand here or go sit by
I think you're
Harold?
supposed to come and sit over here with me.
Until you turn it on. There you go. Thanks, Harold. I'm glad you dressed down. I'm waiting for you to untuck your shirt so we can look a little bit closer, but
All right, man.
thanks. Look at that.
I'll just join you on
Look
that
at that. Thanks. Neither one of us are as sharp dressers as Scott.
Yeah, I know.
I think we're okay with that.
Yeah.
Right? All right. Well, thank you for your questions. Keep them coming in. I will ask them in the order in which I received them. And here they come. All right. These are anonymous. The first one is the rising cost of childcare a concern for attracting young families as employees? And if so, what efforts are being made to address this?
Yeah, it's a significant issue. I'm going to talk about it really from two perspectives. One, it is something that when I talk to business leaders, that is a major challenge. And I think actually the COVID period kind of reset the conversation because that's where you started seeing people really stepping back and going, man, I am paying this much for childcare. I'm not making much in the job that I'm in, so I'm just going to select into staying at home. And that's not gender specific.
Right.
It's both male and female. And so it is an issue. As an employer, it's an issue. We see it all the time. And the council, we made a proposal to the council to actually put money in terms of childcare for our employees because we were seeing that that's a competitive issue for us as we compete for employees. So yes, it's a big issue for both public and private employers. And what are we doing? You saw that as something that the council had as one of our goals. We're looking for ways to partner. So we're partnering with you.
Right.
And your TLC center, where we're actually getting spots for reduced rates for city employees. I think that partnership was important because it also creates capacity for training and other things for other providers in the community. At the same time, we're partnering with Wild Plum as part of the Housing Authority. And I don't know if you all know this, I'm also the interim executive director of the Housing Authority right now as well. But a city housing authority partnership with Wild Plum to create, and I think this is probably the first one in the community, where we have early childcare as part of an affordable housing project or a housing project. So they will be co-located to actually provide that childcare to those individuals. And I think we're continuing to have these conversations and figure out what's next.
Right. Great. Thank you. Can you please explain the economic impact Longmont's airport provides to Longmont and ways Longmont can support and grow that economic development?
Yeah, so I think when we look at the economic impact, we're trying to dig into, honestly, some data that the state provided. And I made a comment to the city council the other day that I have some questions about it. And so part of why I said that is we actually use the same software. And I know that when we utilize that software, we're having to really look deeper into the data to understand it. So right now, our strategic integration department and Becky is digging into the software and the M-Plan to try to get a number on what that looks like. I've always said that I think there are economic development opportunities at the airport. I think one that we're well positioned for actually is as this conversion to electric aviation. And the reason why I say that is because we also own our own electric utility. The biggest headwind that we have right now at the airport is we have a lack of revenue. And that is our biggest issue that we're trying to reconcile. And also because it is its own fund, make sure that it's assuming its cost and how do you look to that long-term revenue stream to secure it into the future? Because right now, in many cases, if there's a grant opportunity, I can't tell you there's a match dollars there, and I can't provide that to the council.
Which are some of the strings that are attached to
Yeah,
available
here
funding.
you go.
Right, right. So, without talking about prairie dogs, what are the plans for the sugar mill? You can talk about prairie dogs if you want.
Yeah, no, I'm going to stay away from that conversation. We had a public presentation that went before the council, and what I would say is for folks to look at that. I saw Laura in the back. We are in conversations weekly. I can't say more than that at this point, simply because these are confidential conversations. But what I can say is our pace has ramped up dramatically. And I think, and what I can also say is this is not something that is just the city. This is the county being part of the conversations. We've had some really good conversations with the county. It is individuals that are interested in developing, but you know, the thing for me, and if there's any property owners that are adjacent to this location here today, that's probably the biggest shift that we've seen. Those property owners are becoming part of the conversation, which I think is something that's really important because when we talk about systems, and it takes all of us, that is actually a classic example where everyone's coming to the table and saying, let's roll up our sleeves and let's figure this thing out. And everybody's putting their personal interest and they're holding them here, but they're looking at the global interest and where this can be as a community. And that is rare in this world.
Do you know the space that you own versus the space that's developable? I mean, what's the total scope of that? I mean, from, I don't know the address, but from Third to...
Well, we don't own anything.
From Third to Martin,
Yeah.
that's the developable area. How much does the city own versus privately owned? Do you know that?
We
off the top of your
don't own,
head?
we don't own anything there.
Right, so it's all these community conversations of all the property owners coming together with the city talking about what are the options.
Yeah, it's a public-private partnership, and that's how these things come together, because in most cases, the cities don't own the actual property, and so you're really digging in with the owners to develop that partnership. Probably the last truly large development opportunity in this community.
Right, great. The city is showing almost $40 million deficit with only 90% of projected expenses reflected. How is this gap managed?
$40 million deficit.
So
we don't have a deficit, so let's start there. We're required by charter to actually have a balanced budget. So what you're seeing in that is this question of operating in capital dollars. And so on the capital side, we actually draw down fund balance. And so what's showing is that drawdown in the fund balance piece in this. This is just a slide that we're not operating at a deficit, nor can we.
And the slide that you were showing were some of the major line items, which all show deficits, but that's not the entire budget.
And that's where you're seeing the pullover in from utilizing fund balance to fund the capital projects. And that's where municipal budgeting's hard, just generally. it's incredibly hard here just because of some of the nuances that we have that other governmental entities don't have. But we can't do what the federal government does, and we can't do what other state or local governments and actually borrow money for operating expenses. And we're like a dog on a bone with that.
Right.
We will not make a recommendation to the council to fund operating expenses with one-time dollars or borrow for ongoing expenses.
Right. Good. Can you address the city implementing the surveillance systems throughout the city as part of public safety and some of the, I think you talked about some of this last year.
I did.
Some infrastructure. So can you address the city's implementation of the surveillance systems throughout the city as part of public safety?
Yeah, so part of what we're doing at our parks is, I think most of those parks have actually had the camera systems implemented. I can tell you that in every case, we've had a double-digit decrease in calls for service. And in a couple of parks, it was like 40-50% decrease in calls for service. You will see in the community that we actually have the movable traffic cameras in. And that's been really interesting to us. We're learning some important things from it. So what we're seeing on residential streets is that we're not seeing the speeding that is perceived. On some of our larger streets, in excess of 120, at least a week. It may be a shorter period of time. So it's reinforcing that we do have a problem with the speeding. The red light cameras and the speed on green cameras actually were delayed in implementation because of CDOT approvals that had to occur.
Okay. A lot of folks drive into Longmont. Probably, I'm thinking this is coming from the east, right? So from I-25 driving in, is there a plan to improve communication of public transit both within the community and outside? Maybe some of this has to do also with where does the city limits end in terms of transportation? When you're talking about Sandstone and some of these projects, where does public transportation begin and end in terms of what your scope is?
So that's it really is within our corporate boundaries. With the exception of Ride Longmont, where we do have the ability to go out to the transit location on I-25, but then behind that with RTD, then you also have RTD boundaries that are in play in terms of where that can service. And so it depends on what group you're talking to, because we actually, in Longmont, we're a little bit different in that we have RTD, we have VIA that we're used to, and then we have Ride Longmont. So we have multiple systems that are in play.
Right.
And they're all a little bit different.
In terms of their boundaries, where they go, where their limits are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. This just changed on me. All right. How can we get BNSF to stop parking on Martin and Main Street during rush hour? Is that something you can control?
No, absolutely not. Do what? Yeah, so I was going to, so there's a great app that actually, again, Strategic Integration and Becky worked on that tells you when the trains are blocking those locations. Pardon? It's missing that intersection. Yeah, so it's coming. It's an ongoing process. Which intersection is it?
Martin and Main.
Yeah,
Martin and Main.
so it's missing that one. I think the other piece is, you all have heard the analogy, I've been railroaded. So being a history major, you know, there's a reason that was developed, because it really is rooted into the foundation of railroads and when they were built and what authorities they were given. I can tell you that our public safety department, our transit, we all call and yell, but I will say at the same time, they've also been very good partners in terms of how we've been building the quiet zones and the work that we've been doing. And I think what we all have to realize from their perspective is they have these crossings in almost every city in the United States. And they also have to be careful with, well, if we do it here, then what are we doing here? And so they're managing different issues at the same time.
Talk about the minimum wage thing. What effect would a $25 minimum wage hour have on the city in terms of budgeting?
I think the number that we came up with without compression was about $1.6 million. I'm looking at Teresa to make sure. So that's about 1.6 million, but that doesn't include compression within the system. And what that means is driving positions against each other.
How about this? The city has floated some ideas recently, such as business licenses or charging retail businesses for retrieving stolen shopping carts. How is this, or is it not pro-business? That's been a council agenda item for a few months.
Yeah, I think I think this is where we're trying to balance multiple issues, and we'll talk about the shopping carts in more detail. So we get a lot of calls for service from neighborhoods, from areas of our communities about, these carts being in those areas. And so I will say that there is a cost to us as we're moving through it. We've also invested money in hiring positions to actually collect those carts and bring them back to the business owners as part of that. So that really is that question of, what is this doing to our operational requirements? What's the impact to neighborhoods? And there's a lot of the businesses that actually put the system on it that it locks the wheel. And I think that's really kind of where we want people to get to. What was your other part of the question?
Pro-business. I think the idea is that businesses are having to cover the costs of these shopping cart policies.
Yeah, what's interesting is in talking to some of the businesses, those shopping carts are also not cheap either.
Right.
And so I think they run anywhere from $300 to $500. And so there's an inherent cost in this anyway. And one of the things that we are doing is we're collecting them and bringing them back.
Right. Yeah. All right. Am I doing okay? All right. You have 5 more minutes or 5 more questions.
Let's roll.
Whatever. I don't know what 5 was. In your opinion, the budget projection for human services funding, what is the budget in 2027 for human services funding to fund local nonprofits? You can talk about the percentage of the general fund, or do you need to defer to?
Yeah, so I'm looking at our staff over there to help me. It is 3%. I think we had an additional 150, 200,000 coming in this year. But in terms of what that specific number is, I'm stumped. Christina, do you have that?
It's a percentage of the general
It's
fund.
3% of the revenues coming into the general fund. So when we talk about things like sales and use tax, and we talk about what they were talking about earlier, there is a direct nexus from everything that Sarah Kelly and Kimberly talked about and what we've talked about that then goes in to support the nonprofits in our community directly.
Right. And I think a good key point of that is that not all cities do that. Some of them have a line item and a dollar amount.
Right.
And the double-edged sword of the percentage is when it's good, it's more. Mm-hmm. When sales and use tax, just like we were talking about other things that drive budgets as sales and use tax, that when cities are doing better, that means there's more in the general fund, which means the percentage is higher.
Correct.
On the flip side, it can be the opposite.
It could.
Yeah.
Right.
But I just think that's a really important point of the city budget that I think, honestly, is a positive thing about how the city invests in the local human services and nonprofits. You didn't ask me that question.
Yeah.
Sorry. As the city of Longmont continues to grow, are the city, school districts, and stakeholders ensuring that new development doesn't overwhelm our schools?
So there's actually a process that we have within our development process when they come in that our planning department is actually communicating with the school district. And they're having that conversation. There's also a fee as part of the development that we do collect and then transmit to the school district. So yes, the planning departments are communicating with each other on that.
Are you okay? Rapid fire? I'm just rapid firing questions. Are there any plans to help develop North Main with city facilities or amenities or some kind of community centers? Plans to help develop North Main.
Yeah, so we actually went in through a process, and we have a broader, and this is related really to the council policy conversations, and so we have a broader Main Street development plan that actually extends from 66 to Pike. So it's the entire Main Street corridor. And I know that our redevelopment folks have been into conversations with different property owners in terms of what they're doing. We've actually had meetings with the North Main Street group to talk about different financial opportunities for them, where can they create a GID, or can they do something similar to what the DDA is doing to bring some additional funding sources to the table. We have some large infrastructure projects coming in the near future. 21st and Main is one of those that we're putting in. And so we're working multiple tracks in that process. And then a plug to the city council made a motion to do a project on North Main Street, of which our Community and Neighborhood Resources Division has been working on and engaging with the neighborhood. And that you have the neighborhood meeting and then the event. So they're having a cleanup on the 25th, of which they're partnering with the commercial establishments and also the neighborhoods in the area.
Okay. I didn't know if you wanted to say anything, Scott. There's also a North Longmont development group that the chamber was meeting with, right, to talk about.
Yep.
And that's all part of this, again, this community collaborative process of what could be developed in partnership with business, city.
And that's actually the genesis on some of the things like shopping carts, and some of the conversations that we've been having is actually coming from the business community.
Right.
In terms of some of the challenges that they're dealing with at these locations.
Right.
And so Zach and I've been to at least 4 or 5 of those meetings with you.
Yeah, great. Is there a plan for a larger live event space in Longmont? Not talking about the sugar mill, but specifically. But is there any larger live event spaces planned in Longmont?
Well, we ran a ballot initiative and it didn't pass. So, we have no policy direction to work on that right now. I can't say what anyone on the private side is considering.
Right.
But I will say that, what we're finding today is you never know.
Right.
And there's been a lot of things come forward that we wouldn't have expected, but it has. And so those are, opportunities that you can't pass up, because one of the things we know is if you pass it up, it may not ever come back around again.
Right. So you're saying there's a chance?
There's a chance.
All right. All right. Oh, I got the Nick sign. That was our last
Are we
question.
done? All right.
I guess that was our last question.
All right.
Thank you for rapid
Thanks.
fire.
Thanks. Huh? Oh, yeah. So I want to answer one question. So I couldn't see the question. So there's a question of why so many assistant city managers. To be clear on a few things, we pay market. So we pay the assistant city managers utilizing the same philosophy that we pay all our other employees. Basically, that is a division head. One oversees public safety, one oversees external services, one oversees internal services, and then one oversees utilities. And so, it's a fairly typical structure, but we've made some other efficiencies by utilizing that, by bringing it together in that way. I will tell you, when I look at other organizational structures, we probably have fewer than most of the other cities that are comparable to our size in what we're doing. Many of those also will have a deputy city manager with an assistant city manager that reports to the deputy city manager. And so it really is about creating that operational oversight within those very specific areas to make sure that we're moving as fast as we needed to. That was one of the first things I said to Sandy, is we're not moving fast enough as an organization, and we weren't taking advantage of opportunities that presented themselves. And I think what that's really done has allowed us to position ourselves to do it. It actually also, frankly, gave the council the flexibility to say, will you be the interim executive director of the Longmont Housing Authority, where we're then taking over a different business unit and trying to bring that into the system as well. And so it really is balancing the workload of an organization and utilizing those positions to reinforce systems theory and systems thinking in terms of how we work. They're in daily conversations with each other, tying together what's happening across the organization, and they're not parochial.
Your salary is also based on markets.
Yeah. So we use the same concept they use the same concept to pay me and the assistants that we do for every position in the organization. Interesting story was in our employee advisory group, somebody made the recommendation that said, why don't we have a policy to cap the city manager's salary at 8 times the lowest salary in the organization? And I kind of laughed. I'm like, yeah, I'll take that, because it was dramatically more than the approach that the council uses in a market-based approach. And so I think those are details that we probably need to do better to get out. So did I cover it? All right, thanks.
Harold, if you can stay just right there for a sec. Do you have your phone on you? Do you have your phone on you?
Yep.
Christina Pacheco texted you the numbers on the human services question. So maybe we can get that one answered real quickly too. While Harold's looking on his phone there, just one housekeeping note. If you have a silver Lexus license plate DYI-N69, I know parking's tough out there, but if you could move your car, there's some construction equipment that needs to get around your car. So a silver Lexus DYI-N69.
So the total budget for, The total budget for Health and Human Services is $2,914,231, and we had a $173,515 increase in that this year based on the increased revenue into the general fund.
All right. Thank you, Harold. And I want to make one other note, too, about questions. There's a lot of questions that came in for Harold, and then there was a lot of questions, more than we anticipated, for the economic panel as well. So we have all those questions. We will send those out to the appropriate folks, and we will get those answered still. So look for those in your chamber e-news. If you're not a chamber member and you don't get the e-news, those will appear on the chamber's website, longmontchamber.org. So just a note, we will get all of those questions answered if you sent them in. All right, I do want to thank Harold again and also Matt Eldred for all of those great questions. It is now my honor to introduce the next voice in today's program, someone who has played a pivotal role in shaping the future of our education in our community. Dr. Jackie Capuchin is the new superintendent of the St. Vrain Valley School District, and for many of you, this may be your first opportunity to hear from her in this new role. But she's certainly not new to this community. She's been a cornerstone of the district's leadership for years, most recently serving as the assistant superintendent, where she helped drive St. Vrain's reputation for innovation and excellence. Her continued leadership has helped position St. Vrain as one of Colorado and our nation's most forward-thinking districts, preparing the next generation of learners, leaders, and our local workforce talent. Please help me welcome Dr. Jackie Capuchin.
Well, good morning, everyone. This is my 10th year in St. Vrain, but my 4th month as the new superintendent in St. Vrain. And my 37th year overall in public education, all here in the state of Colorado. As of today, I'm going to share just a little bit about my leadership beliefs related to public schools. I'm going to also give you an update on our bond projects, talk to you a little bit about student achievement and some of our success in St. Vrain, our specialized programming, as well as some work that we're doing at our Innovation Center and our Career and Tech Ed Center. So first, let me just tell you a little bit about our belief system and my belief system as we work in your public schools. I want to emphasize that we have a very strong belief as a team in public education, as it ensures that every American citizen has a chance at freedom, democracy, and equality. And if done well, that's the caveat, if done well, it is the great equalizer in our nation, because it allows every U.S. citizen to access opportunities and to overcome economic barriers and to achieve social mobility. And great public schools positively contribute to this community, to our economy, to the values of your homes, the service industry and the trades, a strong military, our local businesses, a strong democracy, and the future well-being of our next generation. We are among the strongest economy in the world. We have the highest gross domestic product, the most sought-after university system, and the most patents of any country in the world for innovation. 90% of all U.S. citizens have gone through, are currently in, or will go through our public education system. And while our system is not perfect, it helps to prepare citizens that achieve at the highest levels in our nation. Public education is currently being challenged by those who want to privatize our institution, and the best way to do that is to create a failing narrative about our teachers and the system. But I will tell you this, and I really believe it. If we lose our public schools to vouchers and other forms of privatizations, and we develop a class system of haves and have-nots, we will see poverty in this country soar and poverty in this community soar. In St. Vrain, we are committed to telling the right story and to serve as a model for how a powerful, excellent public education system can be for our children and for our community, and we are committed to serving as a model for all other communities in this space. We currently have a group of about 30 different educators from different school systems from Kansas at our Innovation Center right now, looking at what we're doing in St. Vrain. We also have a group of 22 districts visiting our school district next week, 22 districts from across the nation visiting our district next week to look at the work that we're doing here with our students. I am also a firm believer that we as educators must take care of each individual student in our care during the school day in the same way that we would take care of our own children and grandchildren. And not just for their individual success, which is very important. It is very important that all of our children reach their individual potential, but also for society as a whole. Each of us must come to care about everyone else's children. We must recognize that the welfare of our children and grandchildren is intimately linked to the welfare of other people's children. After all, when one of our children needs life-saving surgery, someone else's child will perform it. If one of our children is harmed or threatened by violence, someone else's child will be responsible for that violent act. The good life for our own children can only be secured if a good life is secured for all of other people's children. I think that a community that cares for its children the way this community does and cares for its senior citizens will have a strong fabric and will flourish, because in doing so, we are honoring the lessons of the past and we are preparing for the best future possible. So just a little bit about St. Vrain. Here are some quick facts. We serve 33,000 students in 411 square miles. We currently have 60 schools and soon to be 4 more in the areas of our district that are growing. We also have areas that are not growing, and we'll have to address the efficient use of our school facilities in the coming years. We have over 40 focus programs and career pathways, and we have received over $70 million in grants in the last 15 years. St. Vrain has numerous business and industry partners who contribute to our students through mentoring, helping us develop specialized programming and curriculum and programs like our pre-law program, cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, and aerospace engineering, and through their financial investments. Our business and industry and nonprofits are an asset to our work, and in return, we hope to be an asset to your work through the preparation of our students. Just a bond update here. Last November, St. Vrain passed a $740 million bond thanks to this incredibly generous community. Bond dollars are used to build new schools and to maintain your district facilities. Our projects are going incredibly well. They are on time and under budget thanks to a highly dedicated planning and operations team in St. Vrain. These new facilities will keep our community vibrant, reducing crowding in fast-growing areas, and allow for additional programming because we currently have 1,500 students on the waiting list at our Career and Tech Ed Center. And we will be building a second Career and Tech Ed Center near the new high school, which will be located just west of I-25, right at Highway 52 there. There is currently a new pre-8 school being built in Meade that will open next fall. That is to relieve a 900-student elementary school out in Meade. We love lots of students. We love enrollment, but 900 elementary students in one building is too much. And we're going to relieve that. We're also going to relieve the middle school out there, and we're building that K-8 on the high school campus. So it'll be a nice campus for families who have students in preschool through high school to deliver their students to one location. We have broken ground on the new high school and the new Career and Tech Ed Center, and the Innovation Center expansion is also underway, and that will double the size of the Innovation Center. And we're currently breaking ground on a new elementary in Erie. These are all in addition to 60 other schools in our portfolio that are also receiving safety and security upgrades, HVAC enhancements, new paint, new carpet, roofs, and all the other scheduled maintenance that it takes to keep all of our facilities and our grounds and our maintenance looking beautiful. Listed here are the many programs and career pathways available to our students, and they fall under the prominent career buckets that we see relevant in society right now. We are currently working on a Futures by Design website to better communicate opportunities and programs to our families and our students, and to clearly articulate how students get through a pathway, because some of the courses aren't always offered just in the buildings where they go to school. We are also doing external scans to determine the most relevant and lucrative pathways for our students, and we're adding new opportunities all of the time. I believe that the new high school and CTE Center will likely add a junior ROTC program for students who want to pursue the military, and we also will likely add a construction management program to the CETC facility. And for those of you who don't know the language of CTE, those are our vocational education programs, like welding, auto mechanics, those kind of programs. Some people wonder why St. Vrain prioritizes the use of technology and is so STEM focused. Let me talk to you just a little bit about this. We are currently in the 4th industrial revolution. The fourth industrial revolution is characterized by the fusion of physical, digital, and biological worlds driven by technologies such as AI, robotics, and the Internet of Things, and genetic engineering. Building on the third industrial revolution and their digital foundations, the fourth industrial revolution creates unprecedented speed and scale of technological advancements, fundamentally changing our life, our work, and the way we interact, and by blurring the established boundaries and raising new opportunities, but new challenges as well. For this reason, we are a STEM-heavy district because research now tells us that 89% of all jobs will require one or all four of the skills in science, technology, engineering, and math. Let's take a look at the future of work and see what our next generations of students are up against. So what are the results of our visionary, hardworking, and opportunity-driven public education system here in St. Vrain? Well, Forbes magazine just recently named 60 businesses across the state of Colorado as the top businesses, and St. Vrain Valley Schools ranked number 22. And the top, thank you. And the top K-12 institution in the state. We were tired of hearing about Cherry Creek. Our grad rate has gone from 75% 20 years ago to 94.5% last year, or 2 years ago. And when we get the official report in December, we believe our graduation rate will be over 96% in 4 years. We are the highest base pay in the state for beginning teachers. We have the lowest teacher turnover rate in the state. We were recently named one of 300 school districts for being one of the best communities for music education, only 2 in the state of Colorado. We've received national recognition for our focus programming and our innovative programs for students. We were named by College Board as a district of distinction for our work in advanced coursework and student success on their exit exams. So the more students we're pushing into advanced coursework, the better they're doing on their exit exams, and they're receiving college credit for those exit exams. We've run numerous state and national championships in sports. And speaking of childcare, next year we're going to pilot 2 0 to 3 classrooms to provide childcare for our teachers and to open up childcare slots to other community members in the existing childcare centers here in Longmont. And if those pilots go well, we'll expand that throughout of St. Vrain. I'd like to end with a quick video that we put together for our convocation, and it was around the theme, the power of firsts, because the first day of school, the first time a teacher meets a student, the first time a parent engages with St. Vrain, and the first time teachers arrive in our classrooms are very powerful moments that we never want to lose sight of, and we always want to capture that energy and extend it through the school year. So our communications team put this video together. It was meant to inspire our teachers as they started their first day back with students. Thank you for allowing me to speak to you this morning. If you have any questions, you are welcome to reach out to us in St. Vrain. We prioritize urgency and responsiveness, and we will have somebody get back to you immediately with your questions. Our contact information can be found on the website, and if you follow on social media, follow our work, track on our successes, you will be amazed at what our students accomplish in St. Vrain. So thank you all so very much.
If you ever get depressed about the future or anything like that, just watch this video again or meet any of our students in our St. Vrain Valley School District, our Front Range Community College, and I am sure that you will feel better about the future after doing that. We have one of our high school students from St. Vrain right here with us today too. Max is one of our chamber interns and he's up in the sound booth. Hey, Max. All right, our last speaker, continuing our focus on education and workforce pathways, I'm pleased to introduce Dr. Rebecca Wolf, Vice President for Academic Affairs and Provost at Front Range Community College. In her role, Dr. Wolf leads the strategic direction of Front Range Community College's academic programs and student success initiatives, work that directly supports access, equity, and opportunity across our region. She also serves as a valued member of the Longmont Chamber Board of Directors, lending her insight to strengthen the bridge between education and industry. Please help me welcome Dr. Rebecca Wolf.
Thank you, Scott. Well, thank you for having me here today. I'll go ahead and advance. What I'd like to share with you is a little bit about one of our biggest achievements so far this year, and that's our 2025-2030 strategic plan, Forward Together. I'm going to start with a short video, and then we'll discuss more of the details.
Change doesn't whisper, it calls. And the ones who answer it shape the future. For decades, higher education followed a familiar rhythm, predictable, hierarchical. But when the world shifted, so did we.
When I started this journey at FRCC, the big question on my mind was, who are we not serving? And so for me, it was becoming the next institution that would allow us to begin to close those gaps.
We're designing for what comes next, a college experience that's flexible, relevant, bold, and deeply human.
This plan is bold by design, and it has to be, because that's what higher education calls for at this moment in time.
We want to do something that no other institution in the 2 or 4 year space has ever done. We want to make it effortless and frictionless for our students to be able to get access to a high quality education and complete their educational goals.
I am very excited for FRCC to reaffirm our commitment to students from all different backgrounds.
We're really in a place where innovation is supported, where you can have new ideas.
We have the opportunity to really jump into new areas, to be really responsive to workforce. Things are moving fast and furious in the world these days. I want Front Range to be innovative.
This is what purpose looks like. This is what progress feels like.
We want our North Star for FRCC, and we know that this strategic plan will be the model for all other community colleges.
This is our journey. This is our future. And we move forward together.
So the process for developing the strategic plan included conversations with internal and external stakeholders. We had sessions scheduled at all of our campuses and specific sessions for industry and partners to share their insights. The process also included a day-long event for the entire college, our Future Summit, that provided a platform for guests and speakers to inspire and motivate our work and for us to come together and strategize. Here is our new mission. You'll notice an emphasis on student outcomes, not only for education, but also for economic success. Our updated vision Here, our focus is to ensure that Front Range is recognized as a leader in community college education, and also the inclusion of not only an exceptional experience for students, but also for our employees. Research shows that employees who feel empowered, valued, and motivated are more likely to deliver a positive experience for our students. And our new values. And like any values exercise, we have a long list of items that we care deeply about. These 5 that you see here emerged at the top after much debate and soul searching and stakeholder input. And finally, our 5 strategic priorities. Learning without limits represents our commitment to ensuring we continue to think about innovative ways to support students in teaching and learning. A vibrant culture supports our commitment to our employees. Success for every learner. This is at the heart of everything we do, ensuring each student has the resources and supports to succeed and reach their goals. College excellence ensures we are not only fiscally responsible, but that we also strive for excellence in all that we do. And finally, transformational partnerships. It's key to our work. Without our partners in industry, government, local cities and counties, four-year universities, and of course our K-12 partners, we couldn't do what we do. So this slide provides some data on our industry and overall K-12 partnerships. I'd like to point out that Front Range has really led the state in community and college apprenticeships. Many of our students face significant barriers in many areas of their lives. Front Range is proud of our focus on identifying solutions to the often overwhelming burden of financing a college education. As you can see here, 2/3 of our students graduate without debt. Another 2/3 who apply for financial aid, their grants cover their entire tuition and fees. And over the last 6 years, we've raised over $31 million in grants and scholarships. And now it's my pleasure to talk about our partnership with St. Vrain Valley School District. We have a long-standing partnership with them that's dedicated to expanding opportunities for high school students across the district. Together, we provide robust concurrent enrollment offerings that allow students to earn college credit while still in high school, setting them on the path toward a degree or career before they even graduate from high school. These numbers that you see here reflect a deep commitment to access, choice, and meaningful pathways for all the students in the St. Vrain Valley community. And here I'd like to, advance. And here I'd like to share some of the successes that we've seen, and this is just a sampling. At Skyline High School, the first cohort of business students earned a certificate of small business ownership, and many have already joined employment or have launched their own business. At the Career Elevation and Technical Center, the CETC, students can complete a medical office administration certificate, enabling them to enter the healthcare workforce right after graduation. And what we have found with some of these micro-credentials is these students can work in these roles with decent pay that help them support them through their next steps in their educational process. And then finally, and this was mentioned earlier, the concept of PTEX, which stands for Pathways in Technology Early College High School. 2 examples of a PTEC, one at Falcon Tech, which is at Skyline High School. This one was established in 2016-17 academic year with IBM as the industry partner. With this PTEC, industries earn an AAS, an Associates of Applied Science, in Computer Information Systems. Since its inception, the program has saved students and families $2.75 million in college costs. We also have the Trojan Tech PTEC at Longmont High School. This one is newer, established in the 23-24 academic year. This one partners with the City of Longmont, chambers, and other business partners as the industry component. And these students will earn an AA in business with the first graduates in 2027. With these clear, supported pathways that prepare students to transfer, work, and thrive, we fuel the economy and strengthen our communities. Together, we're building futures. So thank you for your time. I'd be happy to answer any questions, and I know we're getting close to the ending time, and so don't hesitate to reach out to anyone at Front Range Community College. We're always happy to share our expertise and answer any of your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wolf. And for all of today's speakers, panelists, and to everyone who joined us this morning. What we've heard today reinforces what makes Longmont special. When business, education, and local leadership come together, real progress happens. As the host of this program, the Longmont Chamber is proud to serve as a convener, creating space for these important conversations about where our community is headed. Advocacy and forward progress are a big part of what we do. It's the work that often happens quietly, listening, learning, and speaking up on behalf of our business community so that we can all have the opportunity to celebrate these milestones together. To stay connected, visit our website, longmontchamber.org, for upcoming events and opportunities to get involved. And before you go, take a look back at your program. Again, you'll find one more QR code there, and that links to our candidate questionnaire. Each election year, the Chamber sends out questions to our local candidates and publishes their responses, providing a resource to help you make informed decisions at the ballot box coming up very soon. And while you're there on the Chamber's website, I'll also mention our Leadership Longmont program. So all of those of you that see yourselves as up-and-coming community leaders, we have just a couple more spots in our 2026 program for next year. On behalf of the Chamber, I want to thank you for being a part of this community in action and for helping to make Longmont a place where progress and celebration go hand in hand. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon, and we'll see you next year at next year's State of the City. Thank you.